Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us tonight. We're very excited to share the concept ideas. And we actually try to meet with you in person, but unfortunately, with COVID, for everyone's safety, we still decided to meet virtually. So some housekeeping items. This presentation is being recorded and will be posted on the project website. During the presentation, you may submit questions and comments by clicking the Q&A box at the upper right of your screen. And after the presentation, you may submit questions and comments via the open town hall. With me, I am the landscape architect and project manager for this project. So I will be the one that share the concepts and review the background. With me today, I also have Patricia McManus, my supervisor, design section supervisor, Chuck Kite, the park planner, Hal-June Garland, the master planner and supervisor, Brian Lewandowski, the engineer, Carl Hiroro, park manager, and Trevin Shara, park police with us. So today the meeting agenda is I will do a quick overview of the project and go over the input that we received from you. And then we'll present the preliminary concepts and then open up for question and discussion. And the intent is to get your input. Schedule-wise, we met on June 29th, and we've been working on the concept. So now we're ready to present the ideas. And the intent is to complete the facility plan by next summer to include this project in the next CIP program. And the budget will be determined based on the design. So the process now is to present the design to you for feedback. A quick project overview. You all are familiar with the site. It's about 3/4 miles from the Beltway in the Lyttonsville neighborhood by the CSX train track. And there are a couple local park, neighborhood park, urban park in the vicinity, particularly the Rosemary Hills Lyttonsville local park has a lot of active recreation, playground, and different amenity. And the site is in the greater Lyttonsville west side segment of the 16-mile light rail, Purple Line. And there is no further update than this latest update that was posted in June. Purple Line is supposed to begin service 2026. And I also learned that the Talbot Avenue construction is starting this week, the roadway construction. So this is the site. Rosemary Hill Elementary, Kansas Avenue, Michigan. So it's fronting the light rail and the future Capitol Crescent Trail between Kansas and Michigan Avenue. It used to be wooded and have single family dwelling on the back side. The site is 0.4 acre in size. It's currently a construction staging area for Purple Line construction. And this is a recent Google Earth photo. This is an overlay of the Capitol Crescent Trail. Lyttonsville was an exclusive African-American enclave in Silver Spring, founded in the 1850s by a freed Black laborer. The Talbot Avenue Bridge was one-lane wood and steel bridge that crossed the train track between Hanover Street and Lanier Drive. The bridge represents a historic connection between the segregated community. The deteriorating 100-year-old bridge was demolished 2019 and will be rebuilt as part of the Purple Line. Some longtime residents in the neighborhood want portion of the old bridge structure to be incorporated in the future park. And this is a photo of where the bridge remnants are stored. The master plan identified this as a neighborhood green, and there are future open space planned in the neighborhood along the stream. Things like the more active recreation, like dog park, things like that, will be sited in those areas. And the recommended uses is to restore as much natural tree shade as possible, install buffer to create a rest stop along the trail with interpretive signs about culture and history, and with other amenities, drinking fountain, seating, fitness, bicycle maintenance station, like that. And these examples were shared at the first community meeting. It's a similar project about a quarter in size that have the cultural interpretation components. And also example, a linear park that with different amenities. And also how a piece of artwork is engaged in an environment to commemorate the history and create a memorable experience. And other examples. So we met on June 29th, and these program components were shared with the community. And people brought up the idea about a dog park. And based on the site selection criteria, the site is too small and there's no parking and it's too close to residents. So it's concluded that this is not a suitable site for a dog park. And also, this is a neighborhood park. Park closed at dark. Site lighting is not part of the program. However, the Capitol Crescent Trail will be lit. And other components like a water feature was brought up, and we coordinated with our maintenance and operations team. It will be very challenging. We don't have the capacity to maintain a water feature. So we are exploring ways to create a water feature with stormwater management facility. And other components like a skating component was brought up. And the intent is to explore that along the edge of the trail without dominating the program. And things like an amphitheater was brought up. And other things like a green buffer and soil mitigation, stormwater management, trail alignment, safety and operation issues was brought up. And the discussion was summarized in the meeting report you can find in the project webpage. The site has 14 feet of grade change. And also concerns was brought up about property encroachment issue. So this is a blow up based on the Capitol Crescent Trail construction drawing, and do see there's some overlap of the feature on the east end and the west end. And this issue will be clarified when the property is to be transferred to the park. And the park acquisition team is aware of the issue. Perhaps some kind of easement can be established. So this will be further coordinated during the property transfer. So the open town hall was live after the first community meeting, and was available for people to voice input from till the end of August. And as you can see, some of the amenity was really people think is very important, particularly tree shade and the historic interpretation, drinking fountain. And so based on the different amenity number of votes and 1 to 5, how important it is, we tally up the input, and this is the summary in order. So tree shade and canopy is the top amenity that people are interested. Historic interpretation signage. Next, seating and picnic area. And you can see all these drinking fountain, gathering space, game and fitness. They're about the same level weight of importance. And then other items. So the size of the picture and the size of the text represent people's preference. And in general, people want this park to be green. So the concept, the site has 14 feet of grade change. This side is low, this side is high. It's about 300 feet long, 130 feet wide at the widest area. So in general, it's about 4% slope. And Capitol Crescent Trail has a nicer fence for the stretch that fronting the park. Look like that. And we did a quick stormwater management calculation, assuming 25% of impervious surface. So we'll need about 380 square feet of bioretention. And it makes sense to site those facilities at the low end. And there are electrical and water available. And these are the lights along the Capitol Crescent Trail. So this is the site. And just to revisit, what kind of impression, what kind of park are we trying to create? And as what the community have voiced, it's very green, have a nice tree shade and vegetation. And nicely integrated with the environment, ecological landscape. And we're hoping to incorporate no mow lawn or meadow for the non-programmed area where we have a steep slope or area to maximize the environmental benefit. And possibly not only planting trees, but also planting trees in multiple layers. And this will be explored in the detailed design phase. But we've been talking and working with the park operators and the operation maintenance team. And the intent is we're hoping to really create a healthy environment to restore the vegetation for this area. And amenities such as lawn and where we have slope, it could also possibly be a playful area, bike maintenance station, drinking fountain, fitness, game, and perhaps have a little skating element along the edge of the trail. And wonderful places for people to sit, whether together or sit alone, and surrounded by natural material and beautiful trees and vegetation. And interpretation. And the bridge will be a wonderful teaching tool to highlight the cultural and historic character of the area. And these are the examples. And this is the Talbot Bridge beam and the truss. And we're exploring ways to incorporate that in the concept. And possibly the decking. And other elements to be incorporated and interpreted. So spatial concept, as you can see, we have houses. So the central area where there's not houses immediately adjacent, we feel that this is could be a good common open space. And then restore this upper area where we have bigger area and on the higher ground for nature and respite, and treat stormwater at the lower end, and have social and cultural space to tie these areas together, and active activity on the edge, and nice various opportunity to enter the park, and not only buffer between the residents and the park, but also like some trees along the trail to buffer the trail activity. And with a lot of slope, we need to have enough room to provide accessible connection. So with that, we explore the different spatial organization to try to create a nice relationship for all the program element. And concept A, so then from that, we advance the study and refined it. So this is concept A. Concept A proposes a multi-purpose lawn at the heart of the park with picnic, game, amphitheater, and terraces, framing the open space. A zigzag walkway facilitates great change from the Kansas Avenue side. And there are secondary entry from the trail to invite people into the park to enjoy the amenity. And stormwater management facilities are integrated with ecological planting at the lower west side to enhance the park environment, and also to stage the incorporation of the bridge artifact. Meandering walkway provide connection from the Michigan Avenue entrance to the central open space. And this is an area that situated at the high knoll, a learning alcove and fitness area that take advantage of the tree shade and the nice view into the park. And the reclaimed, the bridge components are featured at the terrace to highlight the history and culture of Lyttonsville. A fence buffering the park along the east-west border provide opportunities for interpretation. And there are benches and seat wall, many opportunities for people to rest and enjoy the atmosphere. Even though we're at the very concept stage, to help convey the design idea, we create a 3D model to explain the space. So again, this is the long game area picnic, the knoll and the learning alcove, terrace, walkway, and the bioretention. So from the Kansas side, you enter the park and you can see the bridge structure kind of framing. I called it the heritage terrace. We can find a better name. So you approach the park, and then there are places for you to sit, bridge structure framing the space. And secondary entry from Capitol Crescent Trail arrive at this terrace, and you can see the interpretation panels in the background, amphitheater, picnic area, seat wall, and these benches can be enjoyed both way, viewing into lawn or viewing the interpretation panel. This is another view coming from the trail. And this is the sitting area towards the back. So try to set these sitting area away from the trail activity. So you can, everyone can see everyone and to do the things that they want to enjoy. And this is a view uphill along the Heritage Terrace. And then there's a ramp to go up to the picnic area and the game area. And you can see the learning alcove in the background. This is the ramp. It's a different angle, so viewing from the picnic terrace. Can see the bridge components framing the space. From the amphitheater. So this is a quiet place for people to sit and possibly have some natural material for nature play or just casual sitting. And this is the meandering walkway from the Michigan Avenue entrance. And this is the view along the trail, view west and east. So along the trail, you can see the bridge components kind of highlighted. So that's the first concept. And concept B propose a multi-purpose lawn on the western half and a revegetated natural area on the eastern half and picnic terrace joining the two in between. Various walkway provide connection to the different entrance and secondary entrance. And amphitheater with accessible ramp. This transition the grades. This side is lower, and this is higher and higher. A stormwater planter enhance this sitting and picnic area and anchor the open space. The planter can become a water feature during storm events. And the reclaimed bridge components are featured along the trail and frame this open space. And this curved walkway with seating and interpretation to highlight the history and culture of this area. And these benches can be appreciated on both sides. So this is the model: multi-purpose lawn, heritage terrace, picnic area, amphitheater, a little skating element, bike fixing station, sitting area, and game. Bioretention. So this is the view coming from the Kansas Avenue side. You need to slope up to a flat area, and there is secondary entry from the trail. So approaching the open space. The open space is framed by the bridge structure, amphitheater, and interpretation terrace. And there's a stairway to transition up to the picnic area. This is a view back to the Kansas side. The stairway and the ADA ramp, and possibly an artwork that's incorporated. And all the sitting area have nice tree shade. And this is the stormwater planter with scupper. When during rain event, the water can fill up and cascade into the lower level. This is another view from the upper terrace. Stairway. Picnic area. It's enhanced by the stormwater planter. And this is a secondary entry. Stairway to go down to the open area. And again, all the area have a nice view into each other, and it's safe and visually and physically connected. And this is the stormwater planter incorporated into the amphitheater scupper this is also an environmental education opportunity. And in the back, have a small scale element kind of incorporated along the edge of the trail. Secondary entry coming from the trail. And this is the view from the Michigan Avenue side. See the little skate element. Sitting and game area. Secondary connection along the trail. A view along the trail. skating component. To add some fun, but still preserve the interior of the park. So that's the two concepts that we came up with. We actually have other concepts, but we feel that these two have the most address all the components better than the other. So we share these two concepts. So we're now ready to open for discussion. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Qingfang. I'm Tricia McManus, our design section manager. And as Qingfang mentioned, our project team is on the call and will work together to try to address your questions and comments. So please, continue to add your comments and questions in the Q&A. Our team includes Brian Lewandowski, our project engineer, Carl Hiralal, our park manager, Chuck Kynes, our park planner, and Ho-Jung Garland, our park planning supervisor. And we have already been responding to some of the questions in the Q&A, but we can explore them a little bit further. I would also like to take a moment. I understand District 18 State Delegate Jared Solomon is on the call. And so I would just like to welcome him and thank him for participating. We always appreciated elected officials who take time and interest in our projects. So thank you very much for being here. And to start with, I'm just going to go from top to bottom and direct, the questions and comments to our team. So, the first comment that we got was that some of the reference photos we were showing were of larger, expansive green spaces and aren't necessarily relevant to this kind of smaller park in Lyttonsville. So I think, that's a valid point, and we could, come up with some appropriate comparisons. I think there were both some larger photos and some smaller ones, but yeah, that's a point well taken. And then the next comment was a question about the historic interpretation and how, liking that idea in addition to the bridge, and how would we design and create the content for the signage? And I think that's a great question, and I'd like Qingfang to piggyback on this, but I think we would. Our cultural resources supervisor, Cheryl Spicer, was unable to attend tonight, but I think that the interpretive part of this project would, warrant its own meeting, and, just to think in depth about what the content and what we're interpreting, and making sure we get it right, making sure we've had public review of it. So that would be a separate element in itself. So on these concepts, we're showing where and how we might do it, but what is being interpreted and how, I think would come later as we get more into the detailed design. And it would certainly, have further depth to that. So I'd like to ask Qingfang if you'd like to add anything to that.
Tricia, you have explained it very well. We'll have separate focus meeting on the content during detailed design phase, and the cultural resource team will lead the effort. And as what Tricia has mentioned, right now we're focusing on the physical and the programming and how everything is related and incorporated.
Okay, thanks, Qingfang. And this next comment had a couple comments. I think Qingfang was describing the plan and just called, one area the Heritage Terrace. One person commented, "That's a great name, no need to change." Another person says, "How is that name decided?" So it's not a formal name. It was just Qingfang's term, I think, to describe that area. So it's not necessarily part of the plan or anything that's going to be, designated that way. Do you want to just confirm that,
Yeah,
Qingfang?
totally. I was just trying to identify the different area, and we welcome your input, and perhaps these space can be dedicated during, as the plan is more developed. But really, that's just totally me coming up with something just to explain the idea.
Okay, thanks. A comment here that thinking the interpretive fence to screen the park, would be a good idea if that's something that residents want. And this next comment, I actually was thinking the same thing before you typed this in the chat, which was that the human models in the 3D presentation were not very diverse, and they should reflect the historic and current demographic composition of the community. So that's a good point, well taken. And I was thinking the same thing when the first concept came up. And I'm glad you pointed that out, and we will make sure we correct that in the future.
Yeah, totally. I apologize. They were on the wrong dress code. But this is just a study. We're just focusing on the space, and this is not even a rendering. We're just trying to convey the space, but I appreciate that.
I think every opportunity we should be, sensitive to what we're portraying. So thank you for that comment. And then there were a few comments. I think some answered that. I think Brian answered a couple of them. So I'd like to go back. There was a comment about potentially showing the bridge actually more like a bridge, rather than, Qingfang, you were kind of defining the edge of the space with maybe one of the girders. And I think there were a couple comments that, could we physically create a bridge with the bridge elements, and, what your thoughts were about that. And then, whether it's going across one of the stormwater management areas or some other way to literally see a bridge in the park. So I'd like your thoughts on that from a design standpoint.
Yeah, I appreciate the idea. You see this element, that's the length of the beam that give you the scale of the size of the bridge. It's certainly possible, but the bridge was deteriorated, and it will be tricky to reinstall the bridge without major restoration. And I was concerned and not sure how that could be done. Therefore, in these two concepts, we're just taking part of the bridge because the sector plan's recommendation is to kind of incorporate the remnant of the bridge. So as I was thinking about the concept, I was trying to not try to reinstall the bridge, because the bridge was not in good condition. It would be very challenging to try to do that. And because the site have a lot of grade change, so we could look into that. We haven't had a chance to really, we need a specialist to evaluate whether those members are structurally can be like a weight bearing, or it's just something, an artifact for display. So that need to have a little more research and investigation.
Okay, thanks, Qingfang. There's a few more comments here, like doesn't like the bridge element set low in the grass because it disappears. So I think maybe looking a little bit more about how the bridge connects, how does the bridge connect the lawn to the trail and being more bridge-like in nature? So those kinds of comments, I think we'd love to hear what people think about, you know, whether we're literally the literal interpretation or how we, you know, incorporate those ideas. So please let us know what you think in the open town hall. There'll be sort of an open-ended question for comments. So we'd love to hear what people think about that.
One thing I forgot to point out is when we put up this kind of components in public park, we have to be careful. Anything that's taller than 30 inches will need a guardrail protection. So the reason why try to set these elements near the ground is to avoid that, because any guardrail fronting these elements will take away its appearance of the this historic appearance. The character of the bridge will be impacted by the guardrail and other elements, and we don't want the kids to climb. We don't want this to be high and have liability issue. That's the reason why the components are studied at this point.
Okay, thanks, Ching-Fang. This next question is about concept B, and would there be a ramp or a way for a wheelchair or stroller to get from the amphitheater to the open area? And that a pollinator garden would be a good idea too.
Yes, this is a ramp. So this is a stairway, and this is a ramp for strollers. I can share an enlargement, but yeah.
But there is a ramp provided. Yeah. Okay, yeah. And I think the stormwater management areas could have pollinator plants, you know, and create that pollinator garden or that effect. The next question is, what would the material be for the open lawn area? Would it be natural turf or synthetic turf? And that's a great question, because a small lawn area like that would get a lot of use. So what were you thinking, Ching-Fang? I think, you know, an option might be, you know, reinforced natural turf might be what we are considering, but please let me share your thoughts.
The natural turf. I think it would be nice to have a natural turf than synthetic.
Well, actually, you know, I'd like to hear, we have our Carl Hiralal, our park manager. I'd like to hear any thoughts you might have, Carl, because this is a similar situation to like Jean Lynch Park, which, you know, is also has a it was just opened, but that was another case where we're trying to, you know, create natural turf, but this reinforcement underneath is sort of it's a geogrid that helps buffer the lawn from compaction and make sure there's drainage and aeration, and it would need irrigation as well. So Carl, do you have any thoughts you'd like to share with us on that?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I agree with Ching-Fang. I think the natural turf is better for this area compared to the athletic turf. So I would go to natural turf.
Okay, and we'll you know, build it in a way that's, you know, we can sustain it, and that would be the intent. And actually, you know, for the rest of the team, if you have comments on any of these, please jump in. I might forget to ask, you know, our team members, but whoever has some thoughts and ideas as we're going through, you know, please just jump in and, you know, let's make this a conversation. So the next comment is, you know, is saying they like the rendering of the concepts, probably and likes the use of separate rooms or ideas, or separate areas or rooms to make different types of activities, so that, you know, likes that element of the concept plans. And the next comment again is another comment about more literally rebuilding the bridge in the park with the girders parallel to each other. So, and did any of the other concepts we looked at show that? So Ching Fong, you might want to address that. And maybe that's, you know, we'd love to hear more of what people think in the open town hall. But Ching Fong, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I actually thought about that. Not rebuilding the bridge because the bridge will be too big, but a section of the bridge will be possible. Possibly a section of the bridge is the Heritage Terrace. And I am just not sure if the material is safe for people to touch, and that needs more study and investigation. Either concept could incorporate that. Possibly concept A has more opportunity to literally incorporate the bridge if the bridge is safe and structurally sound.
Can I jump in here too real quick?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay,
sure,
yeah,
Brian.
there's a couple more questions about this bridge and talking about replicas and the bridge components being curated by professional cultural historians through the Parks Department before anything can be done to put any of these components in the park. And I totally agree that if we do anything with any of these components, it will definitely have to be restored in some fashion so it can be made safe for the public. And whether it's, you know, cutting one of the girders in half and using both sides as a bridge, you know, component that you're walking through, you know, that you feel like you're walking through a bridge, even though it could be, you know, a surface type of such scenario where not elevated, but you know, that all could be looked at during design. So I appreciate all your comments on that, and I think they're great ideas, and I definitely think we're going to have to look into that and go ahead and try to get something incorporated into the plan. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Brian. This next question is, will the park have lighting? And I see when Ching Fong stopped sharing, I saw that Officer Trevin Sherrard from Park Police has joined us as well, and may be able to address the issue of lighting. But the park is intended to be closed at night. However, the trail will be lit. So, and I'm not sure, Brian or Officer Sherrard, if we know at this point the hours of lighting of the trail, or Ching Fong, does anybody, if we don't know, we can find out the answer and make it available to people. But do we know what, or even Carl, anyone who might know like more information about the park lighting, the trail lighting, and the hours that the trail might be lit?
I don't have the information currently. I can look into it.
Hi, this is Sergeant Sherrard, Park Police. Yeah, I believe there's going to have to be some further discussion as to the lighting and the hours in which everything will be lit. It's going to be dependent upon whether it's a commuter trail or not. Typically, if it is a commuter trail, from my understanding and from what I've seen in the past, it remains lit because we want that trail lit so that individuals can be safe as they're commuting on the trail. The key word to it is commuter trail. Just because it's lit doesn't give people the right, you know, just to go out and exercise after a certain time, or to just be walking or lollygagging on the trail. is simply used for commuter purposes after a specified hour to get to and from a specific place. And with that being said, we would definitely want to have it lit for those for individual safety. As far as the park itself being lit, that's going to boil down to the different, you know, amenities there, whether there's a basketball court we want to keep lit, whether there's a tennis court we would like to keep lit. So I think it's just going to boil down to having some further conversation as to what the usage is going to be within the park. And then I think we can come up with a better game plan from there.
Okay, this is a DOT trail, you know, the Capitol Crescent Trail. So I know, and along the Purple Line, the next question from Delegate Solomon is related to the Purple Line. So we can confirm with DOT, but it is, I believe, I don't know if the trail is lit all night long, but it is lit for commuter, you know, commuter use. So we can take, we'll have to take a closer look at that and see if we can come up with some additional information. And it may evolve as we're moving forward, but the intent is that the park is sort of a passive park. It's not, it doesn't have active facilities that would be lit at night. So it's intended just to be open during the daylight, but the trail running by it would be lit. So the question here was about the timing of construction based on the Purple Line opening and the trail opening. And our intent right now is we are embarking on this facility plan, which gets us to the level of an initial design and cost estimate, which our intent is to get the project included in the next 6-year capital program for final design and construction. So the intent, the Purple Line, our understanding would be open in fall of 2026. And that would be when the property is made available to us. So we couldn't start construction until we acquire the property. But our intent is to be ready to start construction as soon as we get the property. And that's of course all contingent upon having the funding approved by the county council. So is there anyone else on the team? Brian, if you're more familiar with the Purple Line schedule, or Ching Fong, anything that you could add to that?
No, the Purple Line Community Advisory Team, the June 14th is still the latest information that we can find, and which is displayed on the slide. There's no further update beyond June 14th.
Yes, the Purple Line is building, you know, their infrastructure in some other areas of the county right now. So, you know, as they advance in their construction, you know, I'm sure more information will become available. But as of right now, I don't believe they're working in this area at the moment.
Okay. The next issue here is a question about how does the design support the safety of those using the space? Because the trail is on one side of the park and a barrier for housing on the other. So I think the intent of this question is that it could be very remote, or people could feel trapped unless, you know, they're using the park at a time when there's other people there. So that's a safety issue. Perhaps Ching Fong and Sergeant Sherrard could maybe weigh in on what you think about safety and visibility, and how people are going to feel about being in this sort of long, narrow park that's confined on the two long sides of it.
Yeah, safety and visibility That's an important criteria for design. And as you can see on all the 3D model, everybody can see everybody, and it's transparent. And the tree along the trail intends to create this transparent buffer from the trail activity. And this open space and with other amenities framing the open space. So people will be doing activity and seeing what other people are doing at the same time. So we think safety is a really important. Therefore, the concept was designed this way.
And also, I mean, when we're looking at planting, the intent would be that tree planting would be, you know, a tall canopy that you'd be able to see under and through it. And I think that's something, you know, we typically have our park police evaluate our designs for what's called CPTED, which is crime prevention through environmental design. And that's why we always have park police on our teams to kind of look at whether there's hiding spaces or how they think those spaces would work from a security standpoint. And I'd like to ask Officer Sherrard if you want to add anything to that.
Yes, I don't have too much to add to what Ms. Chen just stated a second ago. My CPTED professional, which is Corporal Derek Williams, he's actually unfortunately he's unable to join us this evening, but he would be our expert in the field of crime prevention through environmental design. So I would prefer to defer to him on this particular matter. I can I'll take these notes down and pass it on to him, at which he'll be able to give you a more educated response here in the very near future.
Yeah, but as we move through the design, we will take those, you know, those issues into consideration and carefully evaluate the plan.
That's correct.
Yeah, okay. And the next question here is that perhaps the residents to the south of the park could be polled to see whether they want screening or whether they would rather look into the park, and that their opinion should be given weight as well. So that's a good point. And we'd love to hear from people about what they think about that. And then a comment here, here's a helpful comment that we could look into Trimble SketchUp people to find some more diverse avatars. So yes, we'll do that. And then again, comment about the bridge elements, you know, being more remnant of a bridge. And the comment, it doesn't need to span a space, it needs to look, but it could look like it does. So that's a good comment as well. And here's another comment. The Talbot Avenue Bridge Committee wants to invite community meeting panelists and attendees to the 5th annual Talbot Bridge Lantern Walk on Saturday, November 12th. So maybe one day when the Lyttonsville Neighborhood Park is completed, the Lantern Walk will start and end in the park. That would be wonderful. So thank you for that call out to that event. It sounds like a great event, and hopefully we can join you. And this question I'd say is perhaps for Carl and Ching-Fong or Brian. Do we anticipate just one park sign installed on the Michigan Avenue frontage near the meandering trail, or would we install a second sign on Kansas or elsewhere? I'm assuming we would have a sign at each entrance to the park, each end, but let me hear what the team thinks. So Carl and Ching Fong, do you want to
Nice.
comment?
Great question. Yeah, two sides. Both entrances of the park will have signage, so people will be aware exactly where they're at, the name of the park. So there will be signage at both entrance.
Okay, great. And then a comment that perhaps more information on the ecology of the future park could be presented next time. And I think that will be something we'll need to explore in detail, you know, and in conjunction with, you know, our park management team, just, you know, since the planting, all of that has maintenance implications. And so I don't think we're there yet, but Ching Fong, would you like to address when we would look at that kind of information?
We already been working closely with the park arborist and the maintenance team. The difficulty we have now is we couldn't even do a survey. We don't own the land. We cannot test the soil, and we're just, you know, focusing on the spatial and the programming. Detail like that need to be studied further when we can really access the site. And the success of this park is really to be able to restore the environment, and while creating all these wonderful amenities within the space. And so that would be the focus. And we also discussed possibly using this project as a pilot project to see how we can maximize the environmental benefit by doing different kind of planting. And also we are trying to coordinate for operating budget to make sure whatever we design, this park will be maintained and to sustain the function and beauty of it.
Okay, thanks, Ching Fong. Here's, I think, this comment that Brian had sort of touched on a little bit earlier, that making sure that the bridge parts must be curated by professional cultural historian through the Parks Department, and they absolutely would be before anything is done to transfer portions of the bridge to the park, and also to be working with the residents on the historical and physical components curation. So, here's some results of the finding can be applied on the interpretive signage, fence, and other areas of the park, and also potentially in the future Lyttonsville Museum. So yes, the cultural and historic interpretation is like a separate project that will be, you know, that will be looked at in depth. And we can assure you that we're not just going to take things and plunk them in the park. It's going to be done very carefully. It's going to be done with a process. It's going to be done with our historians and cultural resources staff who couldn't be here tonight. And I think the one thing they did stress is that, you know, Cheryl was unable to join us, but she said, you know, this meeting is more about the concept, but when we get into the content, that will be, you know, that will be done very carefully and by professionals and with lots of public input. So I can assure you that we would take that very seriously. And so you know, that's more to come later, but yes, we agree with that comment. Another comment here about the girders not needing to be weight bearing, and that, you know, the faux bridge, which would give you the sense of the old bridge, would be fine. So maybe that's something we need to look at, you know, as we move forward. And that likes the way that we're using grade to separate different areas. And a comment about liking the idea of the small natural play area in concept A, And it would be nice to have an element in the park that attracts family with young kids from both sides of the new bridge. So something unique that's not in nearby play areas. So Qingfang, do you have thoughts and ideas about what that could be?
Yeah, no, nature play is that idea. And also the multi-purpose lawn area is for family. And the intent is try to not to put too many things to jam up the space, but to allow flexibility and allow free play. So this park can accommodate more people, all different age group.
Okay, and a follow-up comment about, given how close this park is to the elementary school, they'd like to hear more about the safety aspect as it pertains to children's safety and crime prevention. So that's something we'll have to follow up a little bit more. And maybe I think getting an answer to that lighting question might help as well. So any comments from the team on this issue? Any additional comments? No. Okay. I'd like to keep, if anyone, continue to add questions. Oh, here we have another one. And I also want to go back and look at any of these questions that we may have answered to see if there's any additional topics that we didn't discuss. Maybe Brian, I think you've been answering some of those. So maybe after this next question, I'll kind of ask you if there's other things that issues that from the answered questions that might be good to discuss. But this last question at the bottom right now is, at what point will we see what will divide the park from the school and homes? Where can people directly affected by this provide their feedback and thoughts? And I think we would like to hear from everyone in the open town hall survey. There's an opportunity for comments. I think you can also, it would be good to contact Qingfang directly. I mean, we have her information posted in the chat. We'll post it again at the end. But if people have, really specific areas of concern, don't hesitate at all to reach out to Qingfang directly by email or phone. We'd like to hear, concerns, especially if there's things we haven't addressed or you have specific detailed concerns, especially the abutting property owners. We'd like to hear from you directly. So, please let us know what you think, whichever way is most comfortable for you. And Brian, I'm gonna.
Yeah, I did see a question here that
Okay.
I don't remember any statement on, but they were asking us to consider pedestrian and rolling access into the park from Kansas Avenue. And I just made the answer that yes, these concepts show many access points, including access off of Kansas Avenue. And I know there was another question about accessibility to the, I believe it was to the amphitheater and one of the concepts. And certainly in all our designs, we always provide ADA access to elements in the park. And we certainly will definitely incorporate that. We have a ramp here that's ADA accessible in the design with railing. So plenty of people can access and have access to the seating in many different parts of the park. And again, a lot of questions were about the bridge. So we have some work to do, making sure we can incorporate the bridge and its elements into the part of the park. So, and some more was about some safety issues. So, but I believe, we're definitely going to make sure it's as safe as possible. And we'll during the design, we'll certainly address all these issues.
I did see a comment also that, that people do not support like cutting the bridge elements, that, they should be kept intact. And that's part of this other issue that we discussed about, making sure these remnants are being curated, and that we're doing it professionally, and that we're careful about, how we treat the artifacts that we have. So I'd like to, if people have any other thoughts or comments, please add them now. And in the meantime, I'd just like to open it up to our team. And actually, Chuck Kynes, our park planner, I'm sorry, there haven't been a lot of planning questions tonight, but do you have any thoughts about, what you see about this park and the character of the park and how it fits in with what will be coming through the master plan to this community? I don't want to leave you out, because and I'm sure you have a lot of thoughts and ideas about the bigger picture.
Yeah, I think this park is a bonus park for the community. When we were working on the Greater Lyttonsville sector plan back in 2014, I think it was 2014. Maybe it was a little bit later. We really weren't looking at the space for park amenity opportunities. It was sort of a gift from the Purple Line team when we learned that they wanted to give us this land, so it was sort of a bonus. And so I think what's envisioned is very appropriate for the community. I think other amenities will be provided in other park spaces as part of future redevelopment and as part of other park development projects. So no, I think we're moving in a really good direction with this space.
Okay, thanks, Chuck. And I did want to let people know, and please, I'm going to just say a few things, but if you have additional questions, feel free to pop them in the chat. But I did want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. I think we will post and the Q&A, on the website, which so that people have a record of, what was discussed. And we'll definitely do that. We'll post on our park website. But we also encourage everyone to go to the open town hall page. It's only like a couple questions, mainly about the two concepts, what additional thoughts you have that we should consider, which we certainly heard a lot tonight about the bridge for sure, and about some of the safety concerns. So, but other things that people think of, please add your comments there, and we will refine the plans based on, the ideas that we hear from you. And I do see another comment that popped in here that we're assume the small park along the Capitol Crescent Trail stops at the corner of Talbot Avenue and Michigan Avenue, with an entrance there as well as on Kansas Avenue. There's no direct link between the park and the elementary school, as only the trail goes near the school. So safety for kids should be paramount in the park design and in the trail design, as well as the new Talbot Avenue Bridge and ramp down to the Lanier and Talbot Junction, a crucial space for safety. So more details needed to verify from Parks and DOT about impacts to the residents in the schools. So yes, we'll take a look at those issues. So thank you for that comment. So again, if people have additional questions or comments that you think of later, or if you want to talk with Ching Fong directly, please feel free to reach out to her, about issues of special concern to you. But I'd also, before we close, I'd like to acknowledge our other team members who've been supporting us on the call, particularly Michelle Ramirez, Melissa Chotner, and Susan Stafford of our Public Affairs Office. They run these Zoom meetings for us and keep everything going smoothly. So We really appreciate their help. And all of our work is a team effort. So the whole team that's been on the call tonight is part of the project and part of the development. So thank you to everybody. And Ching Fong, do you have any final comments to close the meeting?
I am very passionate about this project and the whole park team as well. And I appreciate your comment, and we'll work with you. We have this opportunity to receive this property and create a park for this neighborhood, and have the opportunity to incorporate the bridge and to interpret the history and culture of Lyttonsville. This is a wonderful opportunity. So I look forward to doing more work and to make progress. And I welcome your input at any point. And thanks so much for joining us tonight.